Yeah, so I just need to do what you're doing while I attempt to fix it. So it might take me like 2-3 minutes. All right, thank you. This is a recent event I was involved in as a sound engineer, and it happened at the Music Room in London. The event was a live recording, and my job basically on the day was just to set up the entire system, the inputs to mix for the house because we had audience presence, although it was a live recording, and then it was also to mix the ears, the in-ear monitors of the band members, and to also create a multi-track recording of the entire input to send later to a mixing and a mastering engineer. So I had to work with a 3-man band, a keyboard player, a bass guitar player, and a drummer for this event, and also 4 vocal talents. And in this video, I just want to break down my process of running sound for the event, and I hope you find it interesting. To make my work easier, I had a long meeting with the organizers and the band members to find out what the input, the instrument they'll be using, as well as the kind of console that will be involved. So I found out the venue has a Midas M32. That's what we'll be using as the console. So the console we'll be using for front of house, as well as mixing the monitors and creating a multi-track recording. And I found out the instruments they had. So we had a drum, a huge collection of drum sets, and a bass guitar, a bass synth, and 2 keyboards for the event. I was initially told 3 keyboards, but we had 2 keyboards at the end of the day. And to make things easy for me, I used the M32 edit software to create a scene for the event, so I could quickly load my scene that I've already created and that had some little bit of mixing into the console. That will save me a lot of time. So let me just run you through how I created the scene for the event. So I have another phone here that I can use to video my screen. So what I have here is the M32 edit app, and this is the scene I created that I loaded into the board on the day just before I started. So I did some changes in the console as the event went on, but this is just what I had for it. So we had about 14 drum mics after finding out the amount of drums they have. So I have here 2 kick microphones. I have a kick in and a kick out. We have 2 snare, and I'm marking the top and the bottom of the snare. So we have snare 1 top and bottom, snare 2 top and bottom, 3 rack toms, 2 floor toms, a hi-hat microphone, and then overhead left and right. We have our bass synth, keys left and right. That's keys 1, keys 2 left and right, keys 3 left and right, although I ended up using just keys 1 and keys 2. For the event, I finally used keys 3 channel for the DJ. And then we'll have tracks, click channel, and we'll have the vocal channel. I also have a bunch of talkbacks that I added here. So talkback for drums, for bass, and for keys. I also use the app to link channels, stereo channels, for example, the overhead channels, as well as the kick channels. I linked them, did a couple of EQing here, just high pass filter basically. So everything I needed high pass filter I set here, so it will be easy for me. I did my DCAs as well, so set DCAs for all of my channels, so it will be easy for me to mix them. So I had drum, DCA, bass, keys, tracks, vocal, and all of that here in my M32 edit app, and created my monitor mixes. I just created like I created for drums, for bass, keys, and just created a rough mix for my monitors, so I know where to start from. So for the drums, for example, I sent the drums to his ears, gave him a little bit of the overhead so he will play quieter, give him more actually so he plays quieter. Basically what this app helped me to do, that's the benefit of using a digital console. You are able to create your show or to create a scene before you actually get to the venue, and so you don't really need to start working on things as you get to the venue. And the things you just need to do at the end of the day is just to do like a little bit of changes, and you don't need to build a scene or start from the scratch. If it were to be an analog console I was working on, maybe I would have had a chart or an Excel spreadsheet of how I want to route things and what I want to send things to, how I want to lay the layout of my console. I maybe had a masking tape with me that I can use to lay things out. So this really made my work easy, and it came from finding out from the band members and from the organizer what the venue had available and what I was looking forward to, because we didn't have an opportunity for me to actually get to the venue first before the day of the event. So the first thing I did when I got to the venue was to get all my inputs set up. Thankfully, the band members were there before I got there, so the drummer was already setting his drums in place. Keyboardist was setting his keys at the part of the stage where he wanted to be, and then the bass guitar was doing the same thing. So it was quite easy for me to just run connections. Unfortunately, I don't have a video of that because we were racing against time. I had to just make my connection as soon as possible before setting up my tripod and my camera. So I did put the stage box on stage, run all the necessary connections, and connected what I needed to connect. Thankfully, I brought a few trusted microphones that I usually travel with. I usually take a kick drum microphone with me, at least one, but I went with two that day because I didn't like the ones that they had at the venue. So I went with the Shure Beta 91A for my kick in, and the Shure Beta 52A for my kick out. And then I went with a bunch of Shure SM57s for the snare. So the mics we had were basically clip-on mics. I used them for the tom. We had more toms than we had mics available, so it was very helpful that I went with a few mics, and everything, connection was pretty good. We had DIs and everything connected for the bass guitar and the tracks, as well as the keys. So everything was pretty dialed in correctly, and it was time for sound check. So for sound check, the main priority is to get the in-ear mix for the band members to really sound right, because I needed them to be comfortable while playing, and so we can have good recording. Mixing live, the front of house mix was the least in priority as far as this event was concerned, although I still needed to do a lot of things there. So this involved me mixing a lot with headphones because I was interested in mixing their in-ear monitors first. So what I did was to first of all get sound from the boards to the speakers. The speakers were already positioned in the room anyway, so I just had to get my boards using the cables, everything that was existing to get sound from the boards to the speakers, and also to get sound from the board to their ears. We text their in-ear pack, they were using wireless in-ear monitors, and everything was good to go. And then of course I started sound check. One other thing I also did at this point was to also set up a talkback microphone for myself, so I could hear. I set up talkback for the band members. I also set up talkback for myself, so I don't have to shout. Since I was mixing and they already had their in-ears on, I could speak with my talkback microphone softly, and then they could hear me, and I could also hear them when they speak in their talkback, because I would solo their mix and hear it in my ears, and also hear that talkback in that mix, so we could communicate very fine and make sound check really good in this point. So what I was looking for in the sound check was to do a line check, a proper gain staging, make sure everything comes into the console right at the proper gain level, because that also determines what is being sent to the multi-track recording. And also to do a quick EQ setting. Basically for EQ, especially when sound checking the drums, was just to look for the offending frequencies usually around the low mid, cut them out, do a quick EQ, and then move on to every other thing. So I quite left compressors and gates and some other dynamic EQs at this point, because I needed everything the gain should be right, the EQ, basic EQ should be right, and then just to get a good mix in their ears. And from then, when they start playing together as a group, I can do some extra basic thing for the house, because doing that mix for the house, adding compressors and doing a good mix for the house was the lowest for me in priority. I just needed their ears to sound really good. So we started with the drums. Now here's an interesting tip I use when sound checking drums that make it more efficient, and I learned this from Michael Curtis. Now, you know the general way we sound check drums, I will say, oh, give me kick, and then they hit kick for a few minutes and it's very boring, and then we say, okay, give me snare, and then they start hitting snare, and then we start fixing things. The problem with that is, first of all, when you say give me kick, they might hit the kick harder than they would when they're playing the entire drum kit, or they might hit it softer than they would, and when you set gain and then they start playing everything else, you see that your gain doesn't match anymore, and it's very boring anyway. It's not interesting to anyone. Other band members, they just start looking. Something I learned is to just have a kick snare hat groove, something like this. Now with that, you can quickly dial in your gain for your kick, for your snare, and for your hi-hat, and then do some basic EQ. While doing that and attending to all three instruments, the kick, the snare, and the hi-hat, it's not very boring and it's not just bland. The drummer plays with the kind of similar energy he would use when playing the entire drum kit, and that's how close you can get the drummer to play how he wants to play in the main event rather than just focusing on one instrument. And also it becomes fun for everyone around, because while they are waiting to get to their turn on the keyboard and the basses in this situation, they can also be enjoying the groove that the drummer is giving at that time. So that's a quick way to sound check drums. So again, while doing all of this, I was creating a mix, making sure the drums was balanced in the ears of the musicians on stage. And when I was done with that, we went straight to the bass guitar. I had the bass player, after setting gain for him, I had him play with the drummer, just so everything will flow very fast and I don't have to focus on one individual band member. They all already are flowing together, and get everything dialed in their ears. From there, we moved over to track. We did tracks and we did our keys, and everything was pretty good. When the band was pretty set, I had them to play together a piece, something that they've already rehearsed, because them as a band, they were also having a performance in the event, so they had to play something they're very familiar with and they have rehearsed very well. That gave me the opportunity to do some extra work in compressors and gates and just fix everything, dial it properly, and to also bring it in the house and just make sure it sounds really fine. Afterwards, we had singers, our vocalists come in individually to have their own sound check, and that's how the event went. Yeah, so I just need to do what you're doing while I attempt to fix it. So it might take me like 2-3 minutes. All right, thank you. Yeah. Do you want me to just keep singing? Yeah. Hey, journey yourself, master.